Everyone has an opinion on which AI writing tool is best. Most of those opinions come from people who've tried one or two of them, found one they like, and stopped there. I've been using 5 of them: Claude, ChatGPT, Gemini, Copilot, and Perplexity, across different tasks for several months now. Not for a review initially, just because different tools kept getting recommended for different things, and I wanted to find out for myself whether the distinctions actually mattered in practice. They do, but not in the way most comparisons suggest. Here's what I actually found. The typical comparison goes like this: test each tool on the same prompt, score the outputs, declare a winner. It's clean, it's simple, and it misses almost everything that matters about how these tools actually get used. In reality, nobody uses one AI tool for everything and switches between them based on benchmark scores. What actually happens, at least for me, is that different tools have genuinely different strengths, and over time you develop an instinct for which one to reach for depending on what you're trying to do. That's the lens I want to use for this comparison. Not which tool wins on a standardized test, but which tool is actually most useful, and for what. Claude is the tool I use the most, and for the most important tasks, which is why I want to be upfront that it's not a neutral pick in this comparison. Every script for this channel, every blog post on the website, every piece of structured analysis starts here. What makes Claude distinctly useful for writing is the combination of context handling and output quality on longer, more complex tasks. When I'm working through a script that needs to maintain a consistent tone across 1,500 words, or thinking through a topic that requires careful step-by-step reasoning, Claude holds the thread of the conversation better than anything else I've tested. It doesn't drift, it doesn't start substituting its own assumptions for what you actually asked for. It also edits well, which sounds like a small thing, but isn't. Asking an AI to edit something it didn't write is a real test of whether it understands what you're trying to achieve or whether it just rewrites in its own voice. Claude tends to respect the intent of the original while improving the execution. The honest caveat: Claude isn't the best tool for every writing task. Short, punchy outputs sometimes come out more carefully considered than they need to be. For rapid ideation, where you want 10 quick ideas rather than one well-reasoned one, it can feel like it's working harder than the task requires. And as someone who uses it heavily, I'm aware that I'm not a neutral judge. But the fact that I keep coming back to it for the work that matters most is probably the most honest endorsement I can give. ChatGPT is where I go when I want speed and range rather than depth and precision. For brainstorming, it's genuinely fast. Ask for 10 title ideas, 10 angles on a topic, or 10 ways to frame an argument, and you get 10 usable options quickly. The quality varies more than Claude, but for ideation that's often fine. You're looking for the 2 or 3 that spark something, not polishing each one. For general advice and quick questions, ChatGPT's conversational pace works well. It doesn't over-explain when you don't need it to, and it handles the kind of loose, exploratory questions that don't have a clear right answer reasonably well. 2 areas where it genuinely stands out: image generation through DALL-E, which is integrated directly and produces solid results for things like concept visualization and thumbnail ideas. And coding, ChatGPT handles code generation, debugging, and explanation in a way that's accessible even if you're not a developer. I've used it to solve scripting problems and get explanations of why something isn't working, and it's reliable for that. The honest caveat: for anything requiring sustained precision or careful editing over a longer document, ChatGPT tends to drift more than I'd like. It's better for tasks that can be completed in 1 or 2 exchanges than for long iterative work sessions. Gemini's strongest use case is something that neither Claude nor ChatGPT can currently match: working directly with content inside Google's ecosystem. If your workflow lives in Google Drive, Docs, PDFs, or Sheets, Gemini can pull from those files directly and combine them with web research in a single response. For summarizing a long document alongside current information, or answering a question that requires both your own files and live search results, that combination is genuinely powerful. The research and summarization quality is solid, and the integration with Google Search means it tends to surface recent, sourced information more naturally than tools that aren't connected to live search by default. The honest caveat: if you don't live primarily in the Google ecosystem, Gemini's main differentiator largely disappears. As a general-purpose writing or thinking tool used in isolation, it's capable but not clearly better than the alternatives. Its value is strongly tied to the environment it's embedded in. Copilot is the Microsoft equivalent of Gemini's ecosystem play, and the same logic applies. Its strongest use case is pulling context from your Microsoft 365 environment: emails, documents, Teams chats, and calendar data. For anyone doing knowledge work inside Microsoft's tools, Copilot can answer questions like, "What did we decide in last week's meeting?" or "Summarize the key points from the last 3 emails on this project," in a way that no general-purpose AI tool can, because it has access to context those tools don't see. It's also useful for drafting, rewriting, and reformatting content in place, inside Word, Outlook, or Teams, without switching context to a separate tool. For professional environments where Microsoft 365 is the primary working environment, that friction reduction has real value. The honest caveat: Copilot is a workplace tool, not a content creation tool. For scripting, creative writing, or independent research, it's not the right fit. It's best evaluated in the context of a professional environment where Microsoft 365 is already central to how work gets done. After several months of using all 5 tools, my honest conclusion is that the question which AI writing tool is best is the wrong question. The right question is which tool is best for what you're trying to do right now. For long-form writing, structured thinking, and careful editing, Claude. For brainstorming, quick answers, image generation and coding, ChatGPT. For combining your own Google Drive files with web research, Gemini. For answering questions that require context from your Microsoft 365 environment, Copilot. For live research, fact-checking, and source comparison, Perplexity. The practical implication: you probably don't need all 5, but having 2 or 3 available, one for writing, one for research, one for your specific ecosystem, is a meaningful upgrade over relying on a single tool for everything. The switching cost is low. The benefit of using the right tool for each job is real. My own day-to-day setup uses 3. Claude for the writing work that matters, Perplexity for research before I write, and ChatGPT for brainstorming and the occasional coding question. Gemini and Copilot both have strong use cases, but they're tied to ecosystems that aren't central to how I work. If you're deep in Google Workspace or Microsoft 365, either of those would be worth moving higher up the priority list. None of these tools are magic. All of them require clear instructions to produce useful output, and all of them produce output that benefits from human review and editing before it's used for anything important. What they do is reduce the time and friction involved in getting from a blank page to something worth working with. That reduction compounds across every piece of content, every research task, every piece of writing, and it's genuinely significant once it's part of a regular workflow. If this was useful, subscribe. I cover AI tools and online income every week with the honest version of both. I'll see you in the next one.